Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another rambling video, and today we'll be covering a topic that I've been thinking about for some time now. I briefly brought it up on my video about clone armies versus droid armies, but I think this topic deserves an entire video for itself. And for those who don't know, I don't really script these rambling videos. They're less edited than my standard content, usually because they're filling a slot when I'm otherwise busy. But in some ways that also makes them more enjoyable for, I know, a lot of you guys. So today we'll be talking about the World Devastators, which are low-key the most destructive weapon in the Star Wars universe. World Devastators offer a threat similar to the Flood, a self-propagating weapon which gets more and more powerful as it consumes. As we'll discover in today's video, World Devastators had much more destructive potential than the Death Star, the Galaxy Gun, even the Starforge. It was arguably the peak of Dark Empire technology, which generally was leagues above anything used by the New Republic, and pretty much seen as untouchable. I mean, when you read Dark Empire 1, 2, and Empire's End, the New Republic's not really destroying many of the Empire's new capital ships. The Eclipse 1 is destroyed by a force storm, the Eclipse 2 collides with the Galaxy Gun and one of the projectiles explodes, and New Republic lasers and missiles can't even penetrate the shields of World Devastators. So I took some notes while reading the Dark Empire sourcebook and the Essential Guide to Warfare, and one that covers the potential of the World Devastators is the following. The Emperor's proudest creations were the World Devastators, which were his choices to begin the punishment of calamari. Unlike the Death Star, which merely destroyed planets, these machines consumed the metals, carbons, and rare elements locked in a planet's core and used them to manufacture new and more powerful fighters, attack craft, and weaponry. As each world fell, its resources would be used to fuel the assaults on other worlds. So this is where the quick spread nature of the World Devastators is found, but I mentioned self-propagating. And one of the key aspects of the World Devastators were that they were almost totally automated. Yes, there were individuals on the craft, but they were mostly performing maintenance, and as I'll discuss in a bit, they probably themselves could have been removed. So basically, you drop a fully automated machine on a pile of resources, and it begins pumping out battle droids, droid-controlled starfighters, basically creating an entire military in its high-tech furnaces in mere hours or days. That's with only one World Devastators. The Empire had perhaps dozens. And one of the scary things here is that the technicians really didn't have a whole lot of input into what the machine did. They set the very basic mission parameters, i.e. attack Mon Calamari, but then the ships went off on their own. Here's another quote. The World Devastators are enormous droids. The crews, technicians, and slaves live in special compartments inside. They perform the programming and feed information to the central brains, but once this is done, the Devastators operate freely within their designated parameters. So, self-propagation and automation, the first two prongs of a very scary weapon for the Empire. But I've only scratched the surface of the adaptability, intelligence, and durability of these monstrous machines. World Devastators were unique in that they could self-upgrade even in the middle of battle, while resources, and again resources is everything from just the minerals of a planet to starships sucked into the giant ship's maw, were used to produce new weapons. They also upgraded the ship itself. A basic World Devastator was essentially just a droid brain and a control center. The more assets and mass that the Devastator sucked up, the more armor, hangar, weapons, and just overall size the machine accumulated. This means that the longer a World Devastator survived, the more powerful it got, and there's no upper limit to the size of a World Devastator, at least no tested upper limit. During the Dark Empire crisis, one grew to about 3 kilometers, but that was with very little action and thus very little chance to accumulate materials. Don't worry, I have another quote. The longer a Devastator functions, the more it improves and modifies itself, growing larger and more lethal. Theoretically, a single Devastator could eventually become large enough to strip a planet unaided in a few weeks, or even days. This is really incredible. World Devastators were not only basically unbeatable capital ships, and we'll get to that in just a second, but even the tiniest vessel had immense potential, fielding entire fleets all on its own. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, damn, that sounds like quite a super weapon. Is the galaxy even big enough for such a thing? Well, no. Palpatine's ultimate ambition was to conquer not only the Star Wars galaxy, but all galaxies, spreading the Dark Empire across the universe. Aside from the dark side of the Force, fueling this empire would have been the World Devastators and Palpatine's new massive Super Star Destroyers. It's very possible that large enough World Devastators could have produced Super Star Destroyers like the Eclipse on their own, which is pretty damn terrifying, and for this reason we can see why even one of these machines is an extraordinarily dangerous weapon. Palpatine was keenly aware of this, and knew that if any commanders of World Devastators defected, or if a World Devastator was somehow stolen, that it alone could basically create another empire to contest his, and for that reason he included a master shutdown code, which ended up being the World Devastators' only weakness, and the reason they were eventually destroyed. This was probably for the best, because World Devastators not only threatened Palpatine, but also the galaxy as a whole. What if one went rogue? The Dark Empire sourcebook says that World Devastators are not currently capable of reproducing the computer cores and fabrication equipment it takes to make more Devastators, but in time, even that problem could be surmounted. I think this very, very likely. We'll talk about this in a minute. World Devastators can adapt on the fly. So I think with enough battle experience, maybe consume technology and materials, Devastators would eventually find a way to reproduce more Devastators. Then we have a situation that can just totally go out of control, with World Devastators consuming everything and increasing at an exponential rate, both in size and numbers. And this brings us to the final thing I want to talk about, because there is proof that World Devastators could adapt to situations. Here's another quote. "When armed and shielded, a World Devastator would be virtually immune to attack." And this is the key part. Even as the enemy threw their resources at it, it would take them and devise new weapons to hurl at its targets. So basically it's adapting to its enemy, not unlike, say, the Borg. This is just another tick to the reasons why World Devastators become increasingly more dangerous the more battle hardened they get. So basically, World Devastators are really, really bad, and we should be very thankful that Palpatine added a shutdown code and that Luke Skywalker was able to transmit it. Certainly the people of Mon Calamari, the fish of Mon Calamari, should be grateful, but that planet would have been merely the first stop on an increasingly devastating wave, pun intended I guess, moving across the galaxy. One final little tidbit, the New Republic actually captured a World Devastator. You know what they did with it? They threw it away, because people didn't like it. They threw away basically the potential to create a totally automated shipyard. They could have thrown it in some asteroid belt somewhere and just put it to work, but they didn't. Big mistake, guys. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I promise we'll be back to the Q&As at the end sometime soon, but I'm kind of rushing with this one. Notwithstanding this video's rambling nature, I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, guys, have a great week and may the Force be with you.